So let's begin with our first discussion for the day. Our first discussion is on the longevity and AI chat, building insurance solution for an extended lifespan and health span. This session will look at how technology and data is helping insurance build products for longer, healthier lives. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. I'll start with Mayank. Mayank Bathwal, he's the CEO, full-time director, Aditya Birla Health Insurance. Mayank has built Aditya Birla Health Insurance from scratch with a unique health-first approach that promotes prevention as much as protection. He's a Harvard alumnus and a fitness enthusiast himself. He believes every Indian deserves access to better health. Joining him on stage is Satishwar Balakrishnan, Managing Director, CEO, Bandhan Life Insurance. Satishwar is leading Bandhan Life Insurance shift into a digital health-first, consumer-first insurer. With more than 20 years in insurance, he has championed the use of technology to make insurance simpler. We also have Joydeep Sinha, Managing Director, Joydeep Saha, Managing Director, CEO, ManipalCigna Health Insurance. He brings over 2 decades of experience across health, general insurance, and reinsurance. He is an IIT Bombay graduate, my alma mater, and an actuary. He focuses on building trust, agility, and innovation in health insurance. Welcome, Joydeep. Joining him on stage is Sidharth Srinivasan, CEO, Lupin Digital Health. Sidharth leads Lupin's digital therapeutic business focused on improving health outcomes through data and technology. Sidharth was earlier with Tata Group and comes with experience in scaling digital businesses. We have allotted 40 minutes for this panel. I'll request the panelists to adhere to that time. And please give a big round of applause to our panelists.
Might need one more. Great. I think, welcome everyone. We have a fantastic plan planned for you. To set the context, India is increasingly becoming a longevity economy. Life expectancy is already 72 years. And given that this is across 1.4 billion people, it obviously means that many of us will live till 80, 90, or even 100, right? That sounds crazy. But equally, our healthy life expectancy, according to the Lancet, is only about 58 years, which means that on average, we are also going to be spending 14 years extremely unhealthy, all right? So there is this paradox between chronic diseases on one hand, longevity on the other hand, right? And that's something that all of these gentlemen on stage have to grapple with, have to price for, have to create products around. Add to this the fact that we now have AI as a great enabler, as a great lever to be able to accelerate a lot of the decisions that we make, and that's the discussion we plan to have today. But I think just to warm ourselves up to this very, very meaty topic, we'll start with a few easier questions for the panel. So I'll start with Mayank. You've obviously read a lot, reflected deeply about longevity. If there's a book that you'd recommend or something that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, firstly, good morning everyone, and thank you to IIA for this opportunity. Yeah, it's a fascinating subject, Sidharth, as you said, and having spent last 10 years trying to set up a health insurance company with a difference focusing on health, I think health as a subject has really fascinated me more than ever. And one theme in particular is this whole concept of longevity. And and the book that you mentioned, I think there are probably a couple of books that if all of you have not read, you must if you are interested in this topic. One is Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia, and the other one is Lifespan by Dr. David Sinclair. And I think this whole theme is so interesting that we are no longer talking of longevity, but there are two things which struck me really. One is this whole, as you very rightly said, it's no longer more important to live longer, but live healthier, right? As which is which will become as you start living longer. And I think this whole thing of giving more importance to therefore the concept of health span, living more healthier, and I think there are opportunities today. Medicine is really taking shape in a way that, personalized medicine, etc. will come up. But the other one, which is even more intriguing, and I wonder what will happen if that is really going to become a reality, is this whole concept of reverse aging, where they're saying that, you'll be able to bring human beings to a stage where actually there's no concept of aging at all. Age, what is age? I mean, you can kind of stay at a particular age, and in fact, the way health, medicine will kind of become so, cutting edge or whatever, personalized, that, there's no concept of what is your age. So I think these are very interesting topics. Please do read these if this interests you.
That's wonderful. I think Outlive by Peter Attia is a book that I think all of us would have read by now. It's probably become a Bible here. Speaking of reverse aging, I have someone to my right who his friends say every time they meet him, he seems to have become younger. Right? So Joydeep, coming to you, if you could speak about how you've been practicing.
So first of all, good morning, everyone. A lot of known faces around. I think that's a great part. I think some of you I've been meeting after a very long time. Warm welcome to all of you again in this event. So yeah, I think this particular journey started probably during the COVID days. I think that time, lack of exercise, all this stuff kind of led to weight gain. I think there was this one day I realized that probably things are not going in the right direction. And coincidentally, again, Mayank you spoke of, again, the book Outlive. Fantastic book. I am assuming probably 90% of the audience over here would have read the book. If you have not, it's a must one. Okay? So for me, I think it's very simple. Since that day, I think it's more of like a self-discipline, a lot of control on the diet piece, not every day, but that's there. And I think a strong discipline on the health exercise. Even today also I had to come very early, today for this event, but did ensure that, you wake up early in the morning and do your own rituals from the exercise point of view. I think that's the entire piece. Request all of you in today's day. If longevity is one area, lifespan is improving, but on the other side, you all know the potential challenges that we are getting exposed to. It's very important self-discipline. And a book like Outlive, I again, reiterate, is something can be a great asset for all of us. Thank you.
That's wonderful. We also have a gentleman on the panel who is an insurance executive, an MD by day, but apparently an AI geek by night, right? So Satishwar, coming to you, what are some of the more interesting AI use cases that you've come across over the last 6 months?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this one. So very consciously keeping away from the life insurance space, or rather the insurance space. So two things which I think touches every one of us. One is this whole, the Ray-Ban and Meta glasses. I think that's a wonderful use case and a practical one. Imagine you're going to any of the countries and actually being able to communicate with the locals using your own language and then understanding their languages, right? I think that's an imaginative use case there. Two is also, which I think a lot of us know, but somebody, a phone company has used this wonderfully well, is your own fashion expert, right? So if you get basically every time you leave the house, you kind of actually ask that phone saying, how am I looking, right? And does this go well? So we all need that, right? And that kind of is something which is again, it's a common thing, but a very, very, very effectively used aspect there. So I think quite a few things happening, but what I'm now looking forward to is something which makes me stay forever young. I think if that comes through, that will be wonderful.
That's awesome. I think now that you've got a flavor for our panelists, I'll come back to the original context. Longevity is both a risk and an opportunity for insurers. I think we have the benefit of having a couple of health insurers and a life insurance perspective. So what we'll do is we'll go around the panel. We'll get initial perspectives. I'll request each of them to share their on longevity, what they see as the risk, what they see as the opportunity, and then we can perhaps build on that. So Mayank, if I can start with you, what's your thesis on longevity and risk?
Yeah, I think it's an important and very relevant issue for an insurance company for sure, right? I mean, look at it this way that if people are going to live longer, therefore, are you designing products which are actually going to be relevant for that? And especially in the context of health insurance business in India, where there are two unique regulatory regimes which actually is very important for insurance companies to look at. One is lifelong guaranteed renewability, which means you have one-time selection opportunity, once a customer, always a customer, at the choice of the consumer. And second is you can't kind of really change the pricing of the product for a consumer. It's only for the cohort. Now, therefore, how do you really price your product, design your benefits are very relevant. And especially, it's not only about longevity, it's not only about how long our consumers are going to live, but also the fact that as India is becoming a higher income country, the fact is the disease profile is also changing, right? Disease patterns are changing. What used to be a much higher proportion of, let's say, morbidity or mortality risk because of communicable diseases is now completely reversed. If I remember the data, about 65-70% of deaths are because of non-communicable diseases. And in morbidity, it's even higher. Of course, you will have the dengues and the malarias and the all of that in the seasonal period, but that's not really what is causing the big cost outgo for companies. And the other thing is people will live with these diseases for very long. So you'll not, as an insurance company, even come to know that your consumer is actually living with, let's say, a diabetes or any other kind of lifestyle disease condition. So in that context, one is how do you design and then price your product, and the other thing is how do you design your business model itself? Because to my mind, the traditional sickness insurance, sickness funding model doesn't work in this regime. Because if you build that model and, please remember the two regulatory issues that I mentioned, then, business will become extremely difficult to manage from an economics perspective. And we're already seeing that happening for some of our vintage health insurance companies in India. And because the model doesn't necessarily work the way the consumers are looking at health, and therefore you have to revise, and therefore moving more to and I don't like the concept of health insurance being therefore purely seen as a financial services player. I think it's more in the healthcare side, and we'll talk more about that as we move ahead.
But if I could maybe ask you, Mayank, any baby steps or any experiments that are happening within ABHI in this space of tackling longevity or incentivizing good behavior?
I think our whole business model is actually that. We say that we call ourselves, we are not a money player. We are a health player, right? Because all our products are about giving access to, then creating communities, then creating incentives, creating motivations to drive better health outcomes for our consumers. For example, globally, I don't know if you've heard any other company other than ourselves saying we'll make your premium zero, effectively zero, if you truly demonstrate good health behavior. People have come and told me that how can a business model run if you pay your premium back? And how will you ever make money? Of course, we don't expect all our consumers to be in that health state. But I say, if my average premium is 30 grand, if my average claim is 80 grand, I'm much better off paying 30 grand than an 80 grand to a consumer. Isn't it what makes more sense? So, and again, I can go into more specific detail as we move ahead, just in the interest of time. But that's what I think health insurance should be.
Thanks, Mayank. Joydeep, your perspective on how you're looking at longevity as a risk or an opportunity?
Yeah, thanks. I think thanks, Mayank. Mayank set the context, I think, very, very well. Yes, I mean, it's a fact that, one side, longevity is improving. I think that's a fact we are not going to deny. But on the other side, I think the intercomplexity is coming with all the lifestyle diseases that we are talking about, the climate change, and some form of financial inequality. Now, all these things kind of leading to different kind of divergent trends. What are the facts? For me, the facts is when we are talking about this, all the improvement of longevity, even the morbidity risk in different ways, this is not very uniform across the cohorts. That's a big challenge. And I can tell you this improvement, or even in the declining trend wise also, it is going to be non-linear. Okay? The other point is this entire biological age, it's going to be substantially different than the chronical age, okay? And with the entire help of this, this advancements of healthcare, the AI assisted some of the diagnostic that's coming up, I think the lifetime span, even some of the disease pattern which Mayank spoke of, the critical illness, like, a lot of this nowadays you're hearing about, heart-related ailments, cancer. Probably 5-6 years back also it was not that prevalent. Things are changing rapidly. Challenge what is happening today is that, this entire actuarial piece, we love to, and I myself being an actuarial professional in past, we love to, kind of analyze data for past, and then very comfortable predicting something for, with a stable trend for future. That's gonna change now. I think today's risk is very uncertain and it's very, very unpredictable. So what had worked in past is not going to work in future. And that is where eventually we need to move from the current potential, this actuarial hindsight to a real-time forecasting, right? And this is where eventually, instead of just managing claim, right, we have to get into, becoming a health partner with the customer. And that's where I think AI would come in, again, something that probably we'll talk a little later during the session.
I think that's a wonderful perspective. Satishwar, for a life insurer, longevity has a whole different set of practical challenges. For example, how do you manage persistency over such a long period of time? So how do you see longevity and the opportunity there?
In fact, for us, it might be a major change. In fact, it can be an altogether a business change in itself. Now, broadly speaking, okay, so life insurance as a business takes care of two basic needs, or two major needs rather. One is dying too young, and the other one is another opposite extreme of living too long. Okay. So these are the two core businesses that we do. Now, everybody is more easily associated with the dying too young part, which, if this works out pretty well, that as a business might cease to exist. Right? Why will anybody? Because I believe it's not just longevity. I strongly believe the entire aspect of estimating your longevity or can become much more precise. So Jyotish Vidya will become much better now. That's how I see it, right? So if that is known, because life insurance basically to cover an uncertain event. Now, if that kind of certainty comes in, why will anybody buy a life insurance product, right? Especially to take care of the claim. But on the other side, it basically opens up a huge opportunity to taking care of for the living too long. It's all yet to evolve, but it's changing very fast. So these two aspects, it's basically an entire change in business that might come through. So we might have to move away from kind of managing the risk management from that perspective to actually helping somebody live longer in terms of at least taking care of his financial needs, and if possible, might get into the other business of also actually looking at helping them manage their health better, right? So I think that possibilities will emerge, but the way it is currently, I don't think that will remain as it is in the coming few years, from a demand perspective itself.
Thanks, Satishwar. Let me now bring AI into the conversation, and maybe going back to Satishwar. I think we all know about AI being used for claims automation, AI being used for fraud detection. I think that's now become a par for course in insurance. But how do you see AI being used as a way to price for the risk that comes with longevity, or used in trying to connect all the dots to be able to price the right kind of products?
No, so as you said, the immediate productivity improvement is a given, right? You will do that, and that's an immediate one, which each one of us will have to pick up and do that. But what's coming in, as I said, it's also the very existence of business itself. Now, something which I am very confident about, or rather which I'm very much looking forward to more from a human aspect, is the entire digital twin thing, right? Where it's a replica of you, which is purely available in that whole digital framework. Now, there, it gives you a lot of predictive analytics in terms of you can actually figure out in case at a very early stage if something's going to happen to you, or rather, as I said, the entire prediction in terms of how long will I survive, that's going to be much better. So that whole aspect will bring in a lot of change in our processes, right? As I said, people might not actually want to buy a life insurance. If I know that I'm going to live till 80, why will I spend my money on buying a life insurance product, right? but rather I would want to start planning for my retirement. Unless, as Mayank said, if you all stay forever young and keep on working, that's a different story. But there will be some aspects, and you might want to have actually some money coming in while you're alive, but not earning, right? So that entire space is something which will come up. So this digital twin, which actually covers everything, right? It's basically exactly, for instance, digital twin, when you visit a hospital, the doctor is going to look, I don't know whether we will need doctors though, but the doctor is going to look at that digital twin and give you the prescription, right? But that's where I'm coming from. So those aspects, the entire thing of everything being available, and there is a model which actually is working and analyzing that and actually predicting a lot of pieces, will bring in a lot of change in the way we do our business altogether. For example, the other business that I spoke about, which is living too long, is actually predicting how long, right? And how long then basically, because that's a mixed pricing of both the investment return that we earn and the corpus that you brought in spread over a longer period of years. So that brings a major change. There are quite a few actuaries over here. For them, I think life will change a lot, rather than basically moving, in the sense they will have to move from statistical averages to more looking at individual simulation at an individual personal level. So it's not going to be that one price which fits all. As you said, it will become very dynamic at both at the inception stage and also the lifelong cycle. So it can't be that one model which works across.
I think that's awesome. I'm particularly quite happy about how quickly we got to a digital twin in this conversation, right? So it's obviously a very, very evolved panel. Joydeep, you've been an actuary, you've done this for a living. If you can talk me through some of the practical ways in which you imagine AI being used by an actuary. So if you were starting your career today as an actuary, how would you use this tool as a way to improve not just your productivity, but also your accuracy?
Yeah, I think very, very pertinent question. Today, if I need to start again the pricing journey, I think here we are talking about, I mean, again, I'm just referring to the previous point, what we were discussing, the need of the hour. I mean, keeping the entire longevity improvement and some of the challenges that we are facing today, where the risk is very uncertain and predictability is becoming more and more challenging. I think that's where, again, with the help of this entire digital ecosystem, which just now we spoke of, if we can today, let's say with all the consent from the customer, we get access to all kind of potential health record. Here I'm talking about, for example, wearable device can play a very, very critical role in the coming days. Point number 2, your EMR, right? And then the diagnostic reports. Let's say as an insurance company, I have got access to all. Okay? And at the same time, over a span of, let's say, next 8 to 10 years, I am able to capture this data. At the same time, I am able to integrate that with the hospitalization information. Let's say for us, it's morbidity risk, right? With that piece, over a span of, let's say, 5 to 10 years, we'd be able to build, hopefully, a very, very strong intelligent system, which will be a very real-time forecasting, and basis that our ability to predict in a very real-time basis about the potential health outcome of a customer, of a policyholder, hopefully will become a reality. What it means is today, the pricing today is very static, right? It depends on certain risk factors, 5-7 risk factors max that we probably follow in the industry. Eventually, that means we are going to ecosystem where probably we'll be, talking about 50 to 80 factors for us to, dynamically price an individual. So eventually what we are looking at is this entire, pricing ecosystem or even the potential solution. There will be a lot of intervention because of this kind of intelligent system, right? We can, if we are talking about in the next 8 to 10 years, potentially predicting or raising the flag before the event leads to a potential hospitalization. Just imagine the entire power that we have in hand. What it eventually that becomes it then, instead of just, I repeat, talking about claim management, pricing the risk in a very static manner, one, dynamic piece, and very, very personal. So eventually the product pricing solution, the way in the next 5 to 10 years, you should see in the industry is going to be very, very personalized and preventive based. And eventually that will lead to a very, very outcome based system. That's what I see, and there will be a radical change in the overall risk assessment in the next 5 to 10 years, and that's for sure.
Can I just make an observation on that? You know, what Joydeep said, you know, I actually get very scared when I think of that situation, that if you're going to be pricing at a personal level, how is going to it impact the whole fundamental concept of insurance, which is actually built at the whole, you know, at the edifice, it says it must be a game of subsidy. Someone is subsidizing the other one. So if everyone is going to be priced individually, is it going to be really remain a concept of insurance as it should be, is something that we all will have to think through. Because then what will happen to our seniors? If they start paying price exactly what they should pay, you know, which will be much more than, let's say, an individual who's going to pay much less because he or she is healthy. That worries me a lot at a concept level.
I think I'll throw that to the audience. We have a very, very educated, very, very involved audience here. How many folks, show of hands, how many folks believe that insurance would be better if it were priced individually based on your factors? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just, my only thing will be, remember that you'll grow old one day and you'll need someone younger to, you know, subsidize your premium. So I know that there's a relatively younger crowd here. So you want that to be, you know, priced exactly for you. But, you know, even reverse aging, yes, I mean, pray for that starts happening. But that's something for you to think about.
Yeah, I think I'll just take probably 30 seconds. Pricing is one angle, okay, right? And that's the other thing what I spoke of with the intervention, right? And that is where the co-creation of the solution, right? You just don't become a risk carrier. You also, as an insurance company, become a health enabler. So I think both the sides need to be well balanced, and thanks, Mayank. I think that's a very, very well documented risk also right now today, and something that, yeah, I mean, we should be very, very mindful of. Thank you.
Awesome. How many of us would be comfortable sharing our health data with our insurer if it means discounts, better premiums, and so on? Awesome. I'm sure there are people who raised hands for both things. They do not want it to be personalized, but they're also willing to share their data. And I think that's the predicament that all of us have in terms of building new products, right? Mayank, you, in your opening statement itself, spoke about how you've created this revolutionary product where if you have all the good behaviors, you can literally take your premium down to zero. I'm sure many of your competitors will now build parity to that. How do you take the next step? What are you thinking of as the future of creating these kind of new products?
Yeah, I mean, so let's look at fundamental, right? In the business of health insurance, if my consumer is actually healthy, my business is healthy. Absolute 100% alignment. I may not be able to say that for healthcare delivery side. Yeah, I mean, there 100% alignment. I'm not sure to, with due respect to people who are in the healthcare delivery side here, not everyone necessarily wants that to happen, but we want that to happen. Now, my question is, why should we not use this complete alignment of interest to make the business model significantly more relevant for consumers? Which is, consumer tradition, insurance traditionally has been a buy and forget channel. Who wants to use the benefit where you have to be in the hospital to use the benefit? But flip it. If you're actually going to be getting some benefit for staying healthy, for doing something for yourself, isn't it in itself something very interesting? And I think that's what is the entire model all about. And I don't want it to remain a model that only my company follows. I think for the entire category, and I'm 100% sure that Joydeep is doing a lot of stuff in that area in his company, others are doing in their respective company, because that will change the way the category is seen by consumers. It will become a lot more relevant. Think of the kind of ecosystem we'll end up creating, right, in that whole process, where consumer sees a health insurance company as a partner in their journey of being healthy and then therefore achieving the dreams, whatever they may have fixed for themselves. So I think our endeavor is now AI and many other technologies are actually helping us. Satishwar spoke about digital twin. Lots happening in this area. So the question is, how do we leverage and use this new age technology to make it even more. And I'm waiting for some of the regulatory changes to happen where VAS services will be allowed, etc. I think my sense is in 5-10 years from now, health insurance industry will be dramatically different from how we see it today. And I think the question is, are we prepared? And so as a company, as an individual, as someone who's kind of working with my colleagues on this, that is what kind of makes me excited, keeps me awake, and constantly looking at. But we cannot do this alone. We have to do this with partners. And I see so many of my partners sitting here, and thanks to them, I think we're trying to kind of just reimagine the industry every day and make it more relevant, exciting for consumers, and therefore for ourselves.
So I think let's come to that. We have a lot of InsurTech partners here today. Satishwar, if I can ask you, how do you think about using the new age technologies? What competencies you feel should be developed and kept in-house? And that is something that you should own up. And where would you be open to using partners? I think that will give a lot of clarity to many of us in terms of how we should pitch ourselves.
No, so I think this whole space of saying something which I will build in-house, that whole concept has to change. Okay, so it's not, I can't upfront say that I will have this in-house and this is where I will be partnering. Right? Of course, you will have your own in-house team, but I don't think the in-house team has been given a specific mandate. So it's basically I will continuously be scouting for solutions across wherever I get it from. Let it be my in-house solution or it comes from a partner. So whichever solution comes in and whichever enables me to one, cater to the customer better, to help me enhance business further, I will be picking it up that way. So it's not a defined rule saying this is in-house. Naturally, if I am able to build something in-house, it gets me a much better kind of, what do you say, a longer play. Right? Because everything is going to get rebuilt or somebody will catch up soon. So if you have something which is more your own IP, you get a little longer rope. Otherwise, I think it's more either I build, start using it and somebody else follows me, or I follow somebody else, right? So wherever I get the solution which works well with me, and this is where I think the digital infrastructure that we have built, I think that's going to be key. In terms of how easily can I plug on with all those various solutions that I can get in. So it's continuously scouting for solution, which gives me an edge over competition, wherever it comes from.
That's perfect. Satishwar will be available after this panel, and I'm sure he'll go home with a whole stack of business cards by the end of the day.
I think most of them know me for that purposes, but yeah, give me something which I will lap on ASAP.
Yeah, but I think show the value, I think is the message. Insurers are more than happy to experiment. I think that's wonderful to know. I'll come back to you, Mayank. You made a point about how you feel as long as your customer is healthy, you are healthy, your balance sheet is healthy. But I just want to push back on that. Doesn't longevity fundamentally break that alignment? A customer living long, but not necessarily living healthy, but being kept alive through medical intervention, being kept alive through multiple procedures. Doesn't that fundamentally break your model? So how do you build products for that reality where, especially as Indians, unfortunately, we are living longer but not living healthier? And how do you sort of deal with that?
No, I think that's exactly the reason why it becomes even more relevant. If people are going to live longer, and if you're not going to intervene, then imagine what will happen to the health of your business, because the incidence will keep increasing. The cost of treatment will, by the way, medical inflation in India is 12-14% highest in the world, and I don't see that changing very soon because the demand-supply gap is so much in favor of, the healthcare provider side, that this cost inflation will continue. And of course, with better technology, that also will increase the cost, at least in the short term or to medium term. Now, let me give you a concrete example, right? Let's say people live with diabetes, and more in India is supposed to be the diabetes capital of the world, not just because we are the largest population in the world, but also the proportion of people. South Asian, genetic condition is supposed to be more prone to some of these, disease conditions. Now, if people are going to live with that, and that, and you don't do anything about it, then you are actually living with a pool of consumers who's consistently increasing the risk in your risk pool. Can you create products? So I remember when we started, we brought out product for people living with, let's say, diabetes condition and a few others, and I'm just picking up diabetes. And we said, we'll not only provide you cover, we went up to HbA1c 9.5. People said, what are you doing? How is it going to work? I said, people in my existing pool of consumers can also have that. So in any case, I need to have the ability to deal with consumers who have that condition. So why should I not offer products to people who live with who are coming into my risk pool, but who do only one thing? One, who give me some kind of assurance that they will help work with us as an organization to deal with that condition, manage that condition well, right? And we said we'll give you outpatient benefits also, not only a hospitalization benefit, but you go to a doctor, go for a test, and our health coaches actually nudge them, saying you have to go, you have to go, you have to go. So we converted the whole breakage model of insurance into a usage model, where we are saying you must use this benefit, because if you use this benefit, you'll live more healthier life. And behold, I mean, that is one of the most, I wouldn't call it profitable, but most sustainable cohort of our consumers today. And my team is sitting here, I mean, their whole job is to kind of deal with consumers who have those conditions. So it is a product in offering along with an but I can't deal with that myself. So, here is Fitterfly team, Dr. Arvinder and Anjali, we work with them. They also help us deal with some of those consumers, because they bring in that expertise which we can't bring in internally. Xyla team is there, they help us deal with that. So there are, as I said, make this a very different kind of a business model. And suddenly you are able to create insurance offering for consumers who didn't have access to insurance otherwise.
So I think I'll build on that. Mayank, if you were to zoom out and not look at this as a product challenge, but as an ecosystem challenge, how do you manage data ownership and consent? How do you manage regulations? Do regulations need to evolve to keep up with progressive insurers like yourself? How do you make AI work responsibly in an environment? Because it can be abused as well. So how do you see the ecosystem challenge?
Yeah, I think this is a real and this is a very practical issue, firstly, right? Firstly, as an organization, we cannot build all capabilities. It's not possible. I think my colleagues on the panel have mentioned that, Satishwar mentioned that. It has to be a play of in any case, in today's era, where technology is changing everything and technology is changing so fast, if any organization is thinking that they'll build all capabilities upstream, downstream, and core, etc., it doesn't work. I think they're living in some old world. They have to have a partnership and ecosystem mindset. So therefore, firstly, you must have that mindset that I'll work with relevant partners who bring in the best expertise. That's one. Two is data. I think it's extremely critical. One of the saddest part in India today in health is that data is not being brought in the way we should. And I think now I'm seriously waiting for ABDHM, the whole Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission, where consumer data will be available, there will be a consent layer, etc., etc. And in that regime, that itself will create access to data, of course, with consent of consumers, and then have the writing privacy rules, DDPA, etc., are going to come in. Dramatic shift that can happen. And which is why I said, wait for next 5-10 years, you will see health insurance industry working in a very different era.
Great. So I'm now going to ask all of our panelists to play Nostradamus, right? Predict the future. 10 years from now, some of our companies will thrive, Joydeep, because they have embraced these trends, they've taken the right calls, and some of the companies may barely survive, right? Because they've misread the tea leaves. What do you think will differentiate those two sets of companies? Which are the companies that will thrive?
Okay. See, so before I directly jump into this particular thing, one of the I think critical thing would be in future, and I think Mayank, thanks. I think he really touched upon that area. See, I'll come to your question quickly. The understanding about the health resilience part about human body. This is where I think AI can play a significant role. If you today look at some of the reward mechanism in our health insurance product, it's more of like, no claim discount, all those stuff, right? But can we eventually come to a situation where, we actually reward health, resistance gain? Okay, it is not only about no claim. So where I see some of the players in future will be in a very advanced stage, some of the transactional stage insurance companies are the ones who can actually eventually think of that. What it means, which I said at the outset, from just doing a claim management, can you eventually partner with the customer and actually become a health enabler? Okay, that's a very important point. I definitely see these as a definitely one key criteria of this kind of insurance company who thrive. I would see them definitely using a lot of data, okay? But objective again here, it would not be just to predict. As I said, it is also about to how do you extend that resistance piece to the customers. Point 3, I definitely, this is where I see this, a lot of partnership I would expect this insurance company to do with some of you who are sitting here on the tech side, wellness space, genomics, a lot of area I do definitely see a very, very strong collaboration with some of you. That has to happen by these guys. Eventually, if you ask me one thing where they would be very different than the rest, the transactional ones, their value proposition would be very, very personalized. Preventive and outcome driven. And that's the one which will differentiate these guys from the rest, where the rest will be on a transactional manner, still busy in managing claims, static basis pricing. These guys will be actually taking a leaps in terms of how they actually engineer the health outcome of individuals. And that's where I see the difference will be eventually becoming. Thanks.
Absolutely. Some quick final thoughts, Satishwar, from your side. Describe the life insurer that will thrive 10 years from now.
I think life would be very difficult. I'm not just saying life from a life insurance perspective. I think generally life will be very difficult. Difficult in the sense from a business perspective, especially if I want to continue with as it is. Naturally, the immediate ones, which is you will have to make yourself very productive, those things which are coming in. But in 10 years' time, I am actually seeing more it as a demand side issue. I think supply would have evolved. We would have been much more capable to serve a lot of aspects, but will those requirements still continue, right? So it's going to be a demand side issue in terms of, as we said, longevity, if it comes in, why will anybody buy a term plan, right? So similar are the aspects on those things. So the entire business will evolve. I don't think we can continue as it is. We might want to celebrate increased longevity rather than death claims paid. That should be our metric at that point in time. So how are we going to help? So it becomes, currently, if you ask me, there are only 3 touch points which I do. One is basically when I onboard a customer, so I kind of screen the customer, especially in the life insurance space, right? I screen the customer saying there is no anti-selection, which is basically ensuring that nobody is actually misusing the life insurance product, and somebody in the deathbed or even in certain cases a dead man already is trying to buy a life insurance. So that's a screening exercise that we do. The other piece is every time when I collect the subscription from it, which is the premium we call it as, but in common parlance subscription. So that's the second touch. And third is if something happens to the family, or rather the policy holder, to the nominee, right? So that's the claim. But that's not gonna continue like that. So I might want to move away from just being a protection guy to a protection, health and wealth, all 3 together. Because I think the long-term solution, especially for every individual, is to have enough wealth accumulated in parallel to take care of any such needs. Okay? Again, always have this one place saying insurance is supposed to take care of it. And I'm thinking accumulation in parallel is going to be critical. So it's, once you have that space, I might actually kind of foot in mouth kind of a scenario, and I'm saying, does that business, but that's where I will have to evolve. So
Perfect.
that's going to be critical.
Bandhan is coming for everyone's lunch, okay? Last word, Mayank, to you. If I can flip it, we have a lot of InsurTech providers over here. How do they survive? How do they thrive? How do they stay relevant?
I think there are a host of opportunities. I mean, just, from what I just mentioned, I think imagine the kind of, as I said, it's an ecosystem we can't build. Okay, let me give you just one. Why should we not have 100% of our claims paperless and humanless? I mean, this itself requires InsurTech solutions across the entire value chain in very, very different levels, right? Why should we not have, as Joydeep just mentioned, consumers interacting with insurance companies? Let's say my vision will be that health insurance industry is seen less as a financial services player, rather as part of the healthcare industry, right? In that sense, if you're able to succeed in that, then imagine the kind of capability that will be required for consumers to necessarily see them in that relationship. Tons of opportunities across the entire healthcare delivery ecosystem. By the way, now they say that if you're a doctor, your success, likelihood of right prediction is 74%. The moment you make it doctor plus AI, it goes to 84%. You make it only AI, it goes to 94%. So, in that era, look at the opportunities that each one of you has, if that is really going to be the kind of world that we are living in. So I think huge opportunities for young entrepreneurs. Capital in any case is not a problem today. It's only about ideas and then executing it well.
No, I think we need to, they're nudging us. Sorry, we would have loved to go on, but we are being nudged not so subtly now to wrap up. I think it's been a very, very insightful panel. I hope, if nothing, you took away a lot of encouragement that there is a lot of space for InsurTech and insurance companies to work together. And there are interesting challenges and opportunities in front of us in the form of longevity and AI. Thank you so much to the panel for having taken this time. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sidharth, for moderating this. Thank you so much.